Welcome to our channel, your gateway to the most spine-chilling tales and unnerving true stories. Today, we present a harrowing true story, the Black Forest. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the treetops of Germany's Black Forest, a group of paranormal investigators huddle together, their breath misting in the crisp evening air. They are a ragtag bunch, each with their own specialties and areas of expertise. There's Amelia, the group's fearless leader, her short-cropped hair and steel-grey eyes reflecting her years of experience in the field. There's Mark, the tech wizard, his hands forever tethered to his trusty gadgets and devices. There's Evelyn, the historian, who spends her days poring over dusty tomes and ancient manuscripts, seeking answers to the mysteries they are about to confront. And then there's Jack, the skeptic, whose snarky comments and sarcastic quips mask a deep-seated fear of the unknown. They have all come together at the request of a mysterious benefactor who has offered them an expedition of a lifetime, the chance to explore an ancient, decaying castle deep within the Black Forest. The castle, shrouded in dark folklore and whispered legends, has been abandoned for centuries, its secrets locked away and forgotten. Now, their benefactor has given them the opportunity to uncover the truth, and they cannot resist the call of adventure. As they make their way deeper into the forest, the trees seem to close in around them, blocking out the last remnants of the setting sun. The air grows colder, and the investigators can't help but shiver in their coats. They exchange nervous glances, aware that something feels off, but they push forward, driven by their curiosity and determination. Suddenly, they emerge from the dense foliage and find themselves standing before the castle gates. The once grand structure is now little more than a ruin, its stone walls crumbling and overgrown with ivy. A sense of foreboding washes over them as they realize that they are not alone. Shadowy figures dance in the flickering candlelight, casting eerie silhouettes against the crumbling walls. Ethereal whispers fill the air, carrying tales of sorrow and despair that send chills down their spines. Amelia takes a deep breath and steps forward, her hand resting on the rusted iron gate. "All right, everyone," she says, her voice steady despite the tremor she can feel in her chest. "Let's get this started." The others nod, their faces pale and drawn in the dim light. With a collective sigh, they pull out their equipment and begin to set up for the night, readying themselves for whatever awaits them within the castle walls. As they work, they can't help but feel the weight of history pressing down upon them. The Black Forest has been the site of countless legends and myths, from the witches who were said to have flown across its treetops on broomsticks, to the cursed lovers who met their tragic ends within its depths. Now, they are about to add their own chapter to that dark and twisted tale. The investigators spend the night in a makeshift camp just outside the castle walls, each of them lost in their own thoughts as they try to prepare themselves for what lies ahead. They don't speak of their fears, but they don't have to. They can feel them lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Yet despite their trepidation, they know that they can't turn back now. The mystery of the castle calls to them, and they must answer its call, no matter the cost. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting the Black Forest into an eerie twilight, Amelia and Ethan stand before the ancient castle, their hearts racing with anticipation and fear. The castle looms before them, its crumbling towers and Gothic spires reaching up into the darkening sky, crooked fingers beckoning them closer. Behind them, the rest of the investigators gather in a huddle, murmuring nervously and checking their equipment for what seems like the 100th time. Amelia takes a deep breath, steadying her nerves, and turns to her team. "All right, everyone, listen up. We know this place is going to be dangerous, but we've got to stay focused. Ethan and I will head over to the East Wing, see if we can't find anything out of the ordinary. The rest of you, spread out and start searching. And remember, stay together. Don't wander off alone." The group nods in unison, their expressions grim but determined. With a final reassuring pat on Ethan's shoulder, Amelia leads her team around the side of the castle, towards the East Wing. The air is thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. As they near the wing, they notice that the brambles and vines that cling to the walls seem to grow thicker and more tangled, as if they are actively trying to keep them out. Ethan nods towards the entrance, a knowing glint in his eye. Looks like we've got our work cut out for us. Amelia nods in agreement, feeling a shiver run down her spine. They exchange a quick glance before shouldering their equipment and steeling themselves for what lies ahead. With one final deep breath, Amelia pushes open the creaky door and steps into the darkness. The inside of the east wing is even more decrepit than they had imagined. Cobwebs hang from every corner. Dust motes dance in shafts of moonlight that manage to fight their way through the narrow, moss-covered windows. The floorboards creak and groan beneath their feet, and the air is thick with the scent of must and decay. They split up, Amelia taking the north end of the wing and Ethan the south, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like tiny beacons of hope. As they search, they begin to notice strange things happening around them. The temperature drops, despite the warmth of the day outside, and they catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of their eyes. Shadows seem to writhe and twist along the walls, taking on eerie, inhuman shapes. It's as if the very air itself is alive with a malevolent energy. Amelia reaches a particularly dark corner, the flashlight illuminating nothing but ancient stone and cobwebs. Suddenly, she feels a chill run down her spine and hears the faint sound of whispering voices. She hesitates, her heart racing, before calling out to Ethan. "Ethan, do you hear that?" There's no reply, only the sound of the whispers growing louder, more insistent. She takes a tentative step forward, her flashlight trembling in her hand, and the whispering grows louder still. It sounds like ancient words, spoken in a language she doesn't recognize, and she feels as if she's being drawn into their hypnotic rhythm. With a deep breath, she forces herself to break free and back away from the corner, calling out to Ethan again. "Ethan, I think we should meet back at the entrance. I'm starting to feel like we're not alone in here." Her voice echoes through the empty wing, and for a moment, she thinks she hears a reply. But it's only the whispers, mocking her, laughing at her fear. As she hurries back towards the entrance, she can't help but feel a sense of dread settle heavily in her stomach. Something about this place is wrong, and she knows that they've only scratched the surface of its dark secrets. Finally, she reaches the entrance, where Ethan is waiting anxiously. "Did you find anything?" he asks, his voice shaking slightly. "No, nothing concrete," she replies, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I think we should call it a night. There's something very wrong in there, and I don't think we should push our luck any further." Ethan nods in agreement, and together they hurry back to regroup with the rest of the team. As they emerge from the castle and back into the relative safety of the forest, Amelia can't help but feel a sense of foreboding settle over her like a heavy cloak. They may have left the castle behind, but whatever malevolent force lurks within its walls has only just begun to reveal itself. As the investigators gathered around Tom, they did their best to comfort him and piece together what he saw. His mutterings about spectral nights in pursuit sent shivers down their spines. Amelia and Ethan, however, decided that now was not the time for idle speculation. They needed to press on, to find a way to restore their equipment and contact the outside world. Moving deeper into the castle, they soon stumbled upon an abandoned chapel, its stained glass windows dark and foreboding. As they explored further, they discovered a hidden passageway leading to a long-forgotten library. The room was dimly lit by flickering candles, the air thick with the scent of dust and age. Bookshelves reached to the vaulted ceiling, groaning under the weight of ancient tomes and scrolls. Amelia and Ethan exchanged excited glances. They knew that this library held the key to unlocking the mysteries of the castle and its dark past. They began to search for a way to restore their equipment, combing through the dusty volumes and deciphering the arcane script. As they worked, they were unaware of the unseen eyes that watched them from the shadows, the whispers that seemed to carry on the wind. After several hours of frantic searching, they finally stumbled upon a hidden alcove behind a tapestry. Within the alcove, they found a strange device, its ancient gears and levers covered in a layer of verdigris. They recognized it as an ancient power generator, designed to harness the natural energies of the forest. With a shaky hand, Amelia managed to activate the device, and a hum filled the air as power flowed back into their equipment. Ethan grinned triumphantly as their tablets and cameras flickered back to life. "Well done, Amelia," he said, patting her on the back. "I knew you'd find a way." Suddenly, a strange sound filled the air, a low, distant rumbling. The investigators exchanged worried glances as they realized that something was very wrong. The rumbling grew louder and louder, and soon they could feel the floor shaking beneath their feet. The library's ancient bookshelves creaked ominously, threatening to topple at any moment. "I think we should find somewhere safe to hide," Amelia said, her voice trembling. "This doesn't sound good." They hurried back through the hidden passageway, making their way deeper into the castle. The rumbling grew louder still, and soon they could feel the vibrations in their bones. As they rounded a corner, they came upon a grand hall, its high, vaulted ceiling supported by massive stone pillars. In the center of the room, a circular dais rose, topped by a massive stone altar. "I think we should try and reach the dais," Ethan said, his voice barely audible over the growing din. "Maybe whatever's causing this is down there." They raced across the hall, ducking and dodging as bookshelves and chandeliers crashed to the ground around them. The air was thick with dust and debris, making it difficult to see. As they reached the dais, they saw a massive door set into the floor. Its ancient iron bands rusted and pitted with age. The rumbling grew to a deafening roar, and they could feel the floor shuddering beneath their feet. Amelia turned to Ethan, her face pale with fear. "I think we should open the door," she said, her voice barely audible above the din. "I don't know what else to do." Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. With trembling hands, he placed his palms against the cold iron of the door and pushed. With a groan that seemed to echo through the castle, the door began to creak open. Light spilled forth from the gap, illuminating a dark, damp chamber below. As the door swung fully open, the investigators peered down into the depths and saw the source of the rumbling. Ancient machinery, long forgotten and left to rust, lay scattered about the chamber. A network of gears and levers connected them, forming a vast, complex mechanism. At the center of it all, a massive crystal pulsed with an otherworldly light, its energy powering the machinery and sustaining the very fabric of reality itself. As the investigators continue their exploration of the castle, Amelia and Ethan find themselves venturing deeper into its darkened recesses. The air grows thick with an unnatural silence, broken only by the distant creak of floorboards and the whisper of their own footsteps. They soon come upon a small, unassuming door set into the wall, its wooden paneling worn and battered by time. With a shared glance, they nod to one another and cautiously push it open. The room beyond is unlike any they've encountered thus far. It is a dimly lit laboratory, its walls lined with dusty bookshelves and strange, arcane artifacts. A faint greenish light emanates from glass tubes, suspended above a large, wooden table in the center of the room. On the table rests a series of grisly-looking tools, their sharp edges glinting in the eerie light. Amelia and Ethan exchange worried glances, both aware of the implications of what they've stumbled upon. This room is clearly the site of some dark and malevolent experiments, and they know that they must tread carefully. They slowly approach the table, careful not to disturb anything that might be left behind. As they draw closer, they notice a series of strange symbols etched into the tabletop, glowing faintly with an unearthly light. Ethan reaches out to touch one of the symbols, but Amelia places a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. "We don't know what might happen if we touch those," she whispers. "Let's be careful." They continue to examine the laboratory, carefully cataloging their findings. Bloodstains on the floor and walls, human bones scattered about, and numerous strange artifacts all point to the same horrifying conclusion. The Von Hellringen family, infamous sorcerers and practitioners of the dark arts, had been conducting twisted experiments in this very room. Eventually, their attention is drawn to a hidden panel in the back of the laboratory. It is secured by a complex lock, but Amelia and Ethan are able to pick it with ease, revealing a hidden chamber behind. Inside, they find a massive, ancient book bound in human flesh. The cover is adorned with symbols of dark power and malevolence, and it exudes an aura of malevolence that chills them to the bone. The book's title, etched into the flesh in flowing script, reads, "The Grimoire of the von Hellringen." Knowing that they have found something of great importance, Amelia and Ethan carefully retrieve the grimoire, making sure not to touch its cover. They carry it back to their base camp, where they can study it safely. Upon opening the book, they discover that it contains the true history of the von Hellringen family and the castle itself, detailing their dark and twisted origins. As they read, they learn of the family's descent into madness and their pursuit of power through the darkest of arts, their ultimate goal being to unleash a terrible evil upon the world. Shaken to their core by what they have read, Amelia and Ethan realize that they have stumbled upon a threat unlike anything they've ever encountered. They must find a way to stop the von Hellringen's plans before it's too late, even if it means risking their own lives in the process. The fate of the world hangs in the balance, and the investigators are the only ones who can save it. As the sun dipped below the tree line, casting long shadows across the forest floor, the investigators gathered around a makeshift campfire outside the ancient castle. Amelia and Ethan shared their chilling discovery about the von Hellringen family and the dark rituals they had performed within the castle walls. The other members of the team, Tom, Sarah, and Mark, listened intently, their expressions a mixture of fascination and horror. "So, what you're saying is that we need to be very careful about what we do next," Tom spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "Those rituals could have unleashed something terrible onto the world." "Exactly," Amelia replied, nodding grimly. "We need to find a way to undo what they've done, to put an end to the haunting and the suffering." Ethan glanced around the group, his gaze lingering on each of their faces before he continued. "We've all been trained for situations like this. We know what we're doing, but we also need to be respectful of the power we're dealing with." Sarah, a skeptical but highly skilled technician, raised an eyebrow. "And how exactly do we do that?" "By being careful," Ethan replied. "By making sure we understand what we're dealing with and why it's here, and by being prepared for anything." They fell silent for a moment, lost in their own thoughts, as the flames danced and crackled before them. The air was thick with anticipation and unease. Tom shifted uncomfortably in his seat, glancing around as if he could sense something unseen watching them from the shadows. "So, what do we do first?" Sarah finally asked, breaking the tense silence. "We can't just sit here, can we?" Amelia took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "I think the best course of action is to begin with the ritual we found in that scroll." She reached into her backpack and pulled out the leather-bound book they had found in the library, its pages yellowed with age and stained with the blood of countless sacrifices. "It's our best shot at setting things right." The others nodded in agreement, their faces grim but determined. They spread out across the forest floor, each taking up their position. As they prepared for the ritual, Amelia and Ethan stood at the center of the circle, their voices raised as they chanted words of power, ancient languages that seemed to echo through the very fabric of reality. Their hands were raised, fingers splayed as they wove intricate patterns in the air. Mark knelt beside Sarah, his eyes scanning the pages of the grimoire intently as he worked to decipher the arcane symbols and words. As they chanted, Tom moved around the circle, his hands held out before him as he warded off any unseen influences that might try to interfere with their work. The air grew thick with energy, the very atmosphere seeming to hum with power. A crack of lightning split the sky, followed by a rolling boom of thunder that shook the forest to its core. The investigators continued their ritual, their voices growing hoarse as they pushed themselves to the limits of their endurance. And then, as if in response to their efforts, a pale light began to shimmer in the darkness, growing brighter with each passing moment. It swirled and danced before them, taking on the shape of a humanoid figure, its features obscured by tendrils of shadow and smoke. "It's working," Ethan breathed, his voice barely audible over the howling wind. "We're doing it." But as they watched, the pale figure seemed to shift and change, taking on a more sinister aspect. Its features grew sharper, more defined, until they recognized the face staring back at them, the ancient von Hellringen patriarch himself. His eyes blazed with an unholy light, and his lips curled into a malevolent smile. "You foolish children," he hissed, his voice echoing through the forest like the rustling of leaves. "You have no idea what you have unleashed." As he spoke, the investigators felt a chill run down their spines, as if an icy wind were blowing through their very souls. The pale figure seemed to grow larger, more imposing, until it towered over them, dwarfing their tiny forms. It reached out a skeletal hand, its fingers stretching impossibly long, and grasped Amelia by the throat. "You will all die here," it rasped. "Your fates are sealed." The world tilted and spun as Amelia struggled for breath, her vision growing dark. She felt herself being dragged away from the circle, her body limp and lifeless in the grasp of the undead patriarch. The last thing she saw before she blacked out was the horrified expression on Ethan's face, his mouth moving silently, trying to warn her of the impending doom. The aftermath of the ritual was nothing short of chaotic. The investigators, once possessed by the powerful entity, writhed and thrashed on the ground, their features twisted into horrific masks of pain and rage. Amelia, her eyes burning with determination, fought to maintain control over her own body as she struggled to free Ethan from the entity's grasp. The rest of the team stood by, watching in horror as their friends and colleagues were turned into mindless vessels of vengeance. They exchanged frightened glances, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, a voice cut through the commotion. "We need to find the source of its power," Amelia managed to croak through gritted teeth. Her team nodded in unison, rallying around her. They knew that, if they could locate the source of the entity's strength, they might have a chance to defeat it once and for all. As they searched the castle, the investigators stumbled upon a hidden chamber concealed behind a secret passageway. Inside, they found a massive ritual altar, surrounded by candles flickering in the draft. Carved into the stone were symbols and runes that spoke of ancient rites and forbidden knowledge. "This must be it," Tom whispered, his voice trembling with fear. "The source of its power." Amelia nodded grimly. "We have to destroy it," she said, her voice steady despite the tremors running through her body. "But we have to be careful. This thing is powerful." They formed a circle around the altar, their weapons at the ready. As one, they took a deep breath and began to chant an ancient incantation, their voices weaving together in a powerful harmony. The air around them crackled with energy, and the candles on the altar flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows across the walls. The possessed investigators, drawn by the power emanating from the ritual chamber, began to stagger towards them, their eyes glowing red with hatred. The team fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered and exhausted. It seemed like all hope was lost. That is, until the sound of a distant horn cut through the air. At first, it was barely audible over the cacophony of battle, but it grew louder with each passing moment. The possessed investigators paused in their attack, their heads snapping towards the sound, confusion etched across their twisted features. And then, from the forest beyond, a figure emerged, a lone knight on a great steed, his armor gleaming in the moonlight. As he drew closer, the investigators recognized him as a member of the von Hellringen family, the very same family who had once ruled over the castle and its dark secrets. The knight dismounted and strode forward, his sword held high, his features set in determination. "I have come to aid you," he announced, his voice strong and steady. "The entity you face is older than time itself, and it has been waiting for someone like you to unleash its power. But fear not, for I am here to help." With those words, the knight in shining armor stepped forward, his sword flashing in the darkness. The possessed investigators, unable to resist the call of their ancestor, turned to face him, their features twisted into masks of confusion and rage. The battle was brutal and relentless, but the combined forces of the investigators and the von Hellringen knight were too much for the possessed investigators to overcome. One by one, they fell, their spirits finally released from the entity's control. As the last of the possessed investigators fell, the knight turned to Amelia and her team, his eyes glowing with respect. "You have done well," he said, offering her his hand. "The castle is free from the entity's grasp, and the forest shall know peace once more." Together, they walked out of the castle, their shoulders squared and their heads held high. The investigators looked at each other, knowing that they had faced something truly terrifying and survived. They had uncovered the secrets of the Black Forest, and in doing so, they had saved not only themselves, but the world. As they emerged from the shadows of the ancient castle, they realized that the sun was beginning to rise over the treetops. The sky was awash in the soft pink and orange hues of dawn, and the forest birds sang sweetly in the trees. It was a beautiful, peaceful scene, a stark contrast to the horrors they had faced only hours before. "Well," Tom said with a sigh, "that was some night. I think I'm going to need a stiff drink." The others laughed, nodding in agreement, but as they walked towards the waiting vehicles, they couldn't help but glance back over their shoulders, remembering the horrors they had left behind. For now, the Black Forest was safe, but they knew that there were other dark corners of the world where such entities lurked, waiting for someone foolish enough to unleash their power. As they drove away, Amelia turned to the von Hellringer knight, who was riding beside her. "So," she said, clearing her throat, "who exactly are you?" The knight smiled enigmatically. "Someone who has spent far too long locked away in a tower," he replied. "But that is a story for another time. For now, let us enjoy the dawn, and the knowledge that we have saved the world from an ancient evil." And with that, they drove off into the rising sun, their adventures no doubt far from over. As the dust settles on the forest floor and the final rays of the setting sun paint the sky in hues of crimson and gold, the investigators of the Black Forest castle case finally begin to breathe a sigh of relief. Amelia, her once steely exterior now etched with the lines of exhaustion and fear, takes in the tranquil scene before her. She glances over at Ethan, who is still pale and shaken from the ordeal they've just endured. They exchange weary smiles, knowing that they've come out the other side of this nightmare together. Their first order of business is to contact their superiors at Paranormal Investigations, Inc., to report their findings. The satellite phone crackles to life, and Amelia is greeted by the familiar voice of their team leader, Dr. West. He listens intently as Amelia recounts the events of the past few weeks, the strange occurrences in the forest, the ancient castle shrouded in darkness, and the possessed investigators running amok. When she finishes, there is a moment of silence before Dr. West finally responds. "Astonishing, Amelia. Truly astonishing. You and your team have uncovered something truly historic here. I want you to pack up your equipment and get back to base immediately. There's much work to be done in analyzing your findings." With that, the connection is cut, and Amelia and Ethan exchange glances. They know that their work is far from over. In the weeks that follow, they spend countless hours poring over the reams of data they've collected, meticulously cataloging the evidence they've gathered, and studying the ancient texts they found within the castle's library. Their discoveries are nothing short of groundbreaking. The von Hellringen family, they learn, were not mere sorcerers and practitioners of the dark arts. They were something far more sinister, necromancers. They delved into the blackest depths of magic, seeking to control the very fabric of life and death itself. Their experiments in the Black Forest castle were nothing less than an attempt to raise an army of the dead, an unholy horde to conquer the world and remake it in their twisted image. But their efforts ultimately failed. The investigators' findings reveal that the ritual they were attempting was flawed, and it backfired, trapping their souls within the castle walls. It was this residual energy, this lingering essence of their failure, that had haunted the Black Forest for centuries, feeding on the fear and despair of those who dared to venture near. As they continue their research, Amelia and Ethan uncover even more startling revelations. They discover that the von Hellringen family was not an isolated group, but rather part of a much larger network of necromancers and dark sorcerers that span the globe. This hidden order, known as the Consortium of the Forsaken, had been operating in the shadows for centuries, amassing power and influence, biding their time until they could once again attempt their dark rituals. Their findings, when released to the public, create an international sensation. Best-selling books and blockbuster movies are made about the haunting of Black Forest Castle, and Amelia and Ethan become overnight celebrities in their own right. Their work brings much-needed attention to the study of paranormal phenomena, and as a result, many other long-forgotten sites of supernatural significance are uncovered and studied. But it is not without its costs. The Consortium of the Forsaken, enraged by the exposure of their secrets, begins to strike back. There are reports of strange disappearances in remote parts of the world, and unexplained phenomena that defy explanation. Amelia and Ethan, now the world's foremost experts on the subject, find themselves in the crosshairs of the Consortium's assassins. They are forced to live their lives constantly looking over their shoulders, always aware that the next knock on the door could be their last. Yet despite the danger, they continue their work, for they know that the truth they have uncovered is too important to be ignored, and that the fate of the world hangs in the balance. And so, they press on, their courage burning bright in the face of darkness, determined to see this fight through to the end. As the world becomes fascinated with the story of Black Forest Castle, Amelia and Ethan find themselves at the forefront of a new wave of paranormal investigations. They travel the world, sharing their knowledge and experience, becoming icons in the field. But despite their success, they can't shake the feeling that there are still mysteries waiting to be solved, that the spirits of the von Hellringen family still lurk in the shadows, waiting for another chance to make their presence known. Their first stop is Japan, where they are invited to speak at a paranormal conference in Tokyo. The city is a dizzying array of neon lights and towering skyscrapers, a stark contrast to the ancient forests and mist-shrouded castles of their native Europe. But Amelia and Ethan feel strangely at home among the eager attendees, who have gathered to hear their tales of ghosts and demons. They speak 4 hours, captivating the crowd with their stories of Black Forest Castle and the von Hellringen family. Following their triumphant appearance in Japan, Amelia and Ethan are inundated with requests to speak at similar events around the world. They journey to Australia, where they explore the haunted outback and investigate the infamous Wolfman of Wollongong. In the sweltering heat of the Australian summer, they find themselves face to face with ancient spirits that seem to hold a special affinity for the von Hellringen family's dark magic. They also meet with local Aboriginal elders, who share with them the knowledge of indigenous shamanistic practices that have been passed down through generations. From Australia, they fly to the United States, where they are met with a media frenzy. Paparazzi swarm them at every turn, desperate for a glimpse of the world's most famous ghost hunters. Amelia and Ethan spend several weeks touring the country, giving lectures at universities and attending paranormal conventions. They visit sites like the infamous Winchester Mystery House and the purportedly haunted town of Salem, Massachusetts. Despite their busy schedules, Amelia and Ethan never lose sight of their primary goal: to uncover the truth about the von Hellringen family and their connection to Black Forest Castle. They spend hours poring over ancient manuscripts and consulting with experts in various fields, from history to archaeology to linguistics. They also continue to document their own experiences, cataloging strange occurrences and gathering evidence that seems to suggest the presence of something sinister lurking just beyond the veil of reality. It is during one of their many research expeditions that they stumble upon a long-forgotten tome, hidden away in the archives of a private library in England. The book, written in a cryptic code that has puzzled scholars for centuries, contains the key to unlocking the von Hellringen family's darkest secrets. As they decode its message, they learn of a ritual that, if performed correctly, could banish the restless spirits of the von Hellringen ancestors once and for all. With the help of a team of trusted colleagues, Amelia and Ethan gather together in Black Forest Castle, the site of their first investigation so many years ago. The air is thick with anticipation as they prepare to perform the ritual. The sun dips below the horizon, bathing the castle in eerie shadows, and the howl of the wind carries through the trees, whispering ancient secrets. As they begin the ritual, they feel a sense of weight lifting from their shoulders, as if a great burden has been lifted from their souls. When it is over, they step back, breathless, to survey the damage. The spirits of the von Hellringen family have been laid to rest, finally finding peace after centuries of torment. Thank you so much for joining me on this cinematic journey. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Have you experienced a spine-chilling horror that left you trembling? Share your terrifying tale with us by emailing nightmarenetwork@hotmail.com, and we'd be thrilled to feature it on our platform. Until next time, happy movie watching.